Hey guys, it's Dana and it's time to talk about money. And in this video, I wanted to talk all about job interviews, tips to make them go better, and also some questions that you can ask to the interviewer. All right, so let's get to it. When you are broke, or if you're trying to get out of debt, the best place to go is work, right? Where does money come from? It comes from work. In order to get work, you need to go to job interviews, get the job, correct? I have been working since I was 16. So I've been working all the way through my life consistently, part-time, full-time jobs, multiple jobs at one time. I've worked in grocery stores. I used to walk dogs. I've had a lot of different jobs within healthcare organizations. I have been a receptionist in corporate offices, inner city offices. So I've had all kinds of jobs, and I've been to a lot of interviews, and throughout the years I have picked up different things that I wanted to share with you. Tips and tricks on what to do within an interview, correct? So that you can land the job or your second job, whatever it is, so you can make money. So first of all, it is to dress professionally. Brush your hair. If you just brush your hair, you will be ahead. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but if you dress professionally, not in bright neon, loud colors, just wear muted, darks, grays, blacks, professional dress, and brush your hair, brush your teeth, and put on a presentable you, okay? So your best self as far as your appearance goes. That is absolutely tip number one. Tip number two is to show up on time, which means 15 minutes early for your job interview. You don't want to be too early because that's a little weird. So I would not recommend being 30 minutes early to your job interview. If you get there earlier than 15 minutes beforehand, then sit in your car or hang out in the lobby or walk around or go into the bathroom and freshen up. But I would highly recommend getting in to check in with the receptionist wherever you're going, or with somebody at that establishment at least 15 minutes before your interview. And that is on time. If you show up at 9 a.m. and your interview is scheduled for 9 a.m., you're kind of late, I feel. You need to be letting them know that you are someone who's punctual, who arrives early, because when you first start your job anyway, you should try your best to arrive early and stay a little bit late, just to show that you are committed to your new job. Okay, all right, so that's tip number two. Tip three is to turn off your cell phone. Turn off your cell phone or leave it in your car if you need to. However, turn it off. Do not look at it. If you're sitting there in the waiting area, don't look at your phone. I just feel like so many people nowadays are just so hooked literally into their cell phones that it's really going to make a difference, in my opinion, if you show that you are fully there. So don't be looking at your phone, obviously not in the interview, not at all. You want to be giving that person your full attention, and you don't want your phone to pull you away, or God forbid your phone to ding or ring while you're in that interview. And don't look at it in the waiting area either, because I know in our office, I walk by our lobby when I go between my desk and the kitchen, and I can see people sitting there waiting for their interviews, and I can see when they're sitting there on their phone versus when they are sitting there calmly reading a magazine or looking around. It's just different. So I kind of think the person looking at their phone, I don't know. I think it's better if you can, when you're sitting there waiting, look around at the people walking around, because it will tell you something about that company. And it also shows that you're there, like you're interested in, and you're waiting for that person to come and get you to bring you to the interview. Okay? Next is to be sure to read the About Us section on the company or organization website before you go into the interview. I think that you should definitely know what that place is all about. What are they known for? You don't want to go in blind having no idea what they do even, because this is going to be, you want it to be your future place of employment, which means that you are there to help them to succeed. So you should have an idea of what it is that they do. So that way you'll be able to also interact and engage in the conversation about the company when you're in the interview. All right. A lot of places now are doing panel interviews which means that you could have, 3, 4, 5 people in that interview with you, not just one. So be sure to bring 5 copies of your resume, so that way you can hand out your resume to each individual that you're interviewing with, so that way they have something to look at while they're talking to you. I think it's a good rule of thumb to bring at least 5 copies of your resume in case you're interviewing, like I said, with multiple people in a panel interview. When you first are introduced to people, be sure to have a firm handshake. Handshakes are so important. I know that at least for us we go to church, and that's one of the things I like about church is we have one moment during the service, 5 minutes during the service, where everyone walks around and shakes hands. And I think that for the children especially, it's a good learning experience for them to learn how to shake hands with strangers. Over time, people at our church are not strangers, but it's still a large group of people. And so learning to shake hands or practicing shaking hands, firm handshakes, they are a indicator of confidence. So if you have a weak handshake or you don't shake hands at all, it's a nonverbal communication. So be sure to have a good handshake when you first meet new people in your interview. It'll show that you're confident. Along those same lines is to be sure to make eye contact and not to use slang. You want to be very professional in your speech as well as in your body language. So making eye contact, and while that person is speaking, be sure, maybe nod your head, use some kind of indicator that you actually are listening. You can lean forward a little bit. I read somewhere that when you mimic someone's body language, that they actually feel more connected to you. So you don't want to do it too much that they would notice. But if certain things within your body language that you do maybe mimic what they're doing, it might make them feel closer to you if you are doing the same kind of thing. I did read that in a book, so it's something interesting. So be very careful that you're making eye contact, that you are engaged, perhaps leaning forward. All those things are really important. Simply listen in your interview. In all kinds of communication, even with people that I am talking to at my kids' activities, at work, people do not listen. Even through emails at work, email, people don't read. They don't read the words in the email. Everybody's in a hurry. People skim. So it's frustrating. But I don't know what it is in the culture, but people just simply do not listen. So if you can listen attentively, you're going to shine. If you can listen to what they are actually saying and then respond in asking a follow-up question. So just try really hard to just listen to that person and what they are saying. And it's a big deal. Try to listen and answer appropriately. If you're listening and there's no moment for you to speak, taking notes, right? So taking notes, having a notepad and a pen when you first get an interview, if you put down your paper, your pen, you got it, you're ready to take notes. Even if there's really not much for you to take notes on during the interview, again, it shows that you're attentive, you're interested, you're listening. And so you can try to take notes. Maybe as they're speaking, you can jot down some things that you want to maybe ask if that all-important question comes up at the end of the interview, which we'll get to later, of do you have any questions for us? So as they're speaking, if you can write down little things something that you could follow up on, but maybe there's not a moment for you to interject to say something, write it down in your notebook. That way at the end, you could look down and say, oh yes, actually I do have a question. You mentioned earlier this, can you elaborate on that? Or, can you specify something? It'll give you some points of some point to go back to, or some way to jog your memory to remember a question. Because sometimes when we're nervous and somebody asks you that question, especially at the end of the interview, you might just blank out and forget what questions and then you might say, I have no questions, which is the worst thing you can do, because sometimes that'll just give your name a big X and they'll just say no. So you want to make sure you have a question to that. When they say, do you have a question, you want to have a question. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the questions. What question can you ask? Obviously, you should ask a question, but one of the questions you can ask is, how can you help them? You can ask them to say, what is something that a previous employee did that really blew you out of the water? And can you be specific? Let me know what that was. And then you can say, or another question is, what is it that you are looking for? Do you have a specific problem that you need solved? What would be, something that would be really fantastic if somebody could come in and do? And then if they respond to that and tell you, really be honest, be authentic in your answer, and say, you know what, I'm not so sure that is me. However, I think that I could help by doing this, this, and that. And then, so don't just say, oh, yes, I'm the one for that. I could fix that problem if you don't think that you could. Just tell them, be honest, say, I'm not sure that I would be able to do that. However, I could possibly add value by doing this. So answer honestly. Okay, and then lastly, I mentioned connecting earlier with body language, but I think that connecting with your interviewer is very important. And you could ask them, how did you come to find your position here? How did you end up here at this company? Or if you have to try to find, in my opinion, something in common with that person, because it's going to help them connect with you. I had an interview once where I was talking about how in my past I had been a pet sitter. And then the person I was interviewing started talking about her cat. And then we had a big conversation about cats. And I ended up getting that job. And I feel as if you can find something in common, whether it's cats, dogs, rock climbing, vacationing, the college you went to. I know sometimes people will get in if they, you might stand out. Usually you stand out to get the interview by people you know. So if there's someone you guys have a person in common, you can say, talk about that, but try to find something in common that you can discuss with them that'll help them feel connected to you. Okay, so hopefully that helped you, give you some tips to how to really nail your interview. Keep in mind that you're just speaking with people, right? They want you to be the person. They want you to be the one who's going to fill this position, just like you want the job. Hopefully you want the job if you're interviewing for it. They want you to be the one that's going to help them solve their problem, who's going to come in on time, who's going to work really hard. And if you're willing to work while you're at work, that alone, once you're in the job, is what makes you stand out. But in the interview, just try to be authentic. Try to be not weird if you can. Don't talk too much about personal issues, really. You are there to help them out, to talk about the job, be as professional as you can. And that's all you can do, really. And then the rest of it is going to be up to them. Okay? So best of luck in your job interview. Hopefully you land it. If you don't give up. Learn what you can from that interview and then move on to the next one. Sometimes, the interview process in itself is, trial and error. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Don't give up on it. Sometimes there can be a lot of applicants, and the reason one person is hired over another can have something to do with who knows who, and that's just the way it is. But like I said, don't give up. Keep trying and keep working at it, and eventually you'll find the position that's right for you. Okay? All right, so that's it. Any questions, let me know. I'm here every single Tuesday talking all about money. We're a family of 6 living in the Philadelphia area, and I work in finance, and I've been working in corporate offices for 15 plus years. Okay? All right, you guys, I'll talk to you next week. Bye.